Basically, like, I was able to get on the phone and contact my AP teacher, and she was irate that they would waste my time and waste my learning. And like, it took me a while to get a hold of her or whatever, but like, she sent a phone call and she was able to get me out of class. Granted, the bell rang right after that because it was so much, but like, the level of care, the level of resources, the level of like expectation of learning, and like expectation of the students in APs are such that like, I can make a phone call and my teacher can get me out of detention, because the learning is like so much more important than like anything else. Whereas like, there were students that like I was able to speak to and they were in there every day. Like the teachers used the detention as a means to educate. Like, the detention was the education, so they would send them there every day, or like, it would be something where it wasn't a big deal or their teachers didn't care. They would let them go to the bathroom without bathroom passes and say, go at your own expense. And then the kids would get rounded up and taken to the detention, and the teachers would do nothing for them. But it was good for me to see like that I fit the profile, that it doesn't matter like you know what I mean, what kind of work I was doing intellectually, if I happened to look like certain people, I could get rounded up. And then the power dynamic and the difference and the resources available to somebody who was in these classes where I could get sprung up like that. Whereas like, there were people, you know what I mean, unjustly in detention like every day, and they have no means of getting out because for some reason like their class schedule doesn't say the right teacher's name.
Being an English major, I've had times where I have had TAs accuse me of plagiarism because they don't think that, you know, I can write, you know, efficiently or just write an eloquent piece of, you know, work or whatever the case may be. And so, I don't know, that was very discouraging. It kind of hurt my feelings, you know, to think that, you know, I'm not taken seriously for my work just because I happen to be African American.
And one time I walked in just like a regular English class, and it was like 12th grade English, and they were doing crossword puzzles. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, in my class, you're like reading like tons of like, you know, literature and all this stuff. And like, yeah, there definitely was like a difference in effort by the teacher, difference in curriculum, difference in expectations, and the fact that they just were like, through a crossword puzzle, like, don't even challenge yourself.
The title of my thesis was Black Client, White Racism, Will the Real Problem Please Stand Up? Because it's the same concept as in public education. In the public education system, the racism, whether it's covert and they're just openly racist, or overt, they're just kind of like doing a little psychological humiliation stuff to you, it's still there. And it impacts how that particular student learns and what that student thinks that they have the capability of learning.
That's exactly right.
And so my premise was that same thing that happens in our school systems happens in therapeutic settings, which is why we as Black people generally don't seek therapy, because usually the therapist is white and there's nobody who understands us on our level of our experience, not our level as in high and low, but just our experience, our cultural experience. And so in the therapy session, we are more likely, because of racism, we are more prone to be diagnosed with really severe psychiatric disorders like schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. We get all those kinds of labels because this white therapist assumes that we're just like that, we're angry. You know, it couldn't be that we really are experiencing some kind of racism in the workplace, and that's really affecting us negatively, you know, and couldn't be that. It's because you've got, you know, these voices you're hearing in your head, or, you know, or you just don't get along with people. You know, that's just, you know, it's kind of like just who you are. You just don't get along.
And it parallels what happens in the school. It starts with public education. I know even with Deanna, my daughter, Deanna, in the 4th grade, she had a teacher who was giving her these, I'm going to say, tip and mitten books in the 4th grade. I didn't know why, so I went up to see the teacher, and the teacher explained to me that, well, the other kids in the class, the white ones, were reading a different book, but a more advanced book. But she had Deanna reading some Tip and Mitten book. I said, absolutely not. Give me the book the rest of the class is reading. And she said, well, no, Deanna won't.
Because you knew Deanna was on a higher level than Tip and Mitten.
Exactly. She said, well, Deanna won't understand it. I said, I'll take my chances. Give me the book. She goes, well, you know, I'm giving Deanna a book to read that's at her level. I said, okay, you can give me the book the rest of the class has, or I'm going to go buy it, or I'm going to go check it out of the library. But when Deanna turns the paper in, the paper she turns in will be based on the book that the rest of the class read.
Okay.
She said, well, okay, we'll do whatever you have to do, but I'm just looking.
She would not give it to you?
No. I think I had to buy that book. So I went home and really worked with Deanna on her reading. What I didn't know is in class, the teacher had her believing she couldn't really read. So at home, she wouldn't half read. She'd read really low, and she would say, well, I don't know how to read. I can do something else. And you're thinking, who told you you didn't know how to read? Who told you that? And it was the teacher who told her, her white teacher.
And they'll say it very slick, like, oh, don't worry, you're not supposed to be able to read this well.
Right.
You know, it's okay. You know, you're doing good enough.
Right.
You know, they don't want you to excel. They don't expect you to excel.